following announcement has been paid for by the WZWA Network.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the WZWA Network, and welcome to our review show here of WWE Survivor Series War Games from the TD Waterhouse in Boston, Massachusetts, from November 26, 2022, in front of 15,609 fans. I'm one of your hosts, Karlifornia. This is Jooseyboy. Jooseyboy, how are you going, my friend?
Oh, man, I am doing fantastic. Hope all of you out there are doing fantastic as well. What a whirlwind of a fucking show we witnessed here at Survivor Series. And we're going to break it down for you here today. This is the official WZWA Network Survivor Series review, as Karlifornia pointed out. And I think, personally speaking, it was perhaps the most important show WWE has put on since Triple H took over. And I'll explain that a little bit more as we go forward.
Wonderful. Good point, bro. I loved the opening of the show. Opening with War Pigs and Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah.
And right at the end there, Ozzy says, "Welcome to War Games," and he starts laughing maniacally. And I'm like, what's so funny, Ozzy? But I really loved that beginning of the show. Yeah. And yes, bro.
I was just going to say, this whole show, it felt like Triple H was kind of taking what he learned from Vince McMahon when Vince was at the height of his powers, and then he's also injecting some of his own Gen X sensibilities into it, and I think that really came across, and this had more of a feel to it that I would expect watching a late 1990s WWF pay-per-view. And I mean that in a good way. Not to say that the product has regressed back to an era of the past, just to say that it has this whole event, it felt more live to me. It felt like it was more important. It felt more high stakes, and it felt like the company knew what they were doing, stemming from each decision that they made creatively at this show.
Yeah, I do remember many years ago, Triple H really wanted to do a War Games match with Evolution, but Vince didn't want to do it. Now, finally, Vince is out the way. Triple H finally can do his little War Games thing.
That's right.
So I think that's cool.
However, positive thing that Vince initially knocked it back, because we got the Elimination Chamber as a response to the rejection of the War Games idea from Triple H. And I do believe that the 5-on-5 Survivor Series concept also had some thing to do with being the WWF's answer to what was happening with the War Games matches at the Great American Bash, etc. at the time from Crockett Promotions.
Of course.
It's very interesting how this seminal match type that was originally established in the WWF's kind of chief rival, and then the WWE's own answer to those matches, which was the Survivor Series, and now it's kind of all these years later, it's come full circle, and the War Games match is being enacted at Survivor Series, which feels very fitting. And there's something that felt like, I'm saying a lot sort of about the overall show here, which goes back to how important I think it will be historically speaking. I feel like this is now an optimal blending of the old and the modern put together in one. That's how I felt watching this show.
Wonderful. And I'm happy to see Pyro is back. I'm sure it's probably been back a little while. Obviously, Saudi Arabia, there was Pyro, but I'm glad that Pyro is back. It's a good way to open the show. But I still think there's a few other things that I'd like them to change. I don't think when you have such an exciting thing of Pyro that we should have a slow pan of the crowd. I think back in the day when you would shoot the crowd and the crowd were quite excited, you get them hyped up with the ring announcer before they go live. I think they need to stop with the slow pan because it's supposed to be an exciting moment. This pay-per-view has begun. And I'm not a fan of the monotone voice saying Supercard presents WWE Survivor Series War Games. Like, I just don't think, I think you need the commentators doing what they used to do back in the day when Jim Ross would be like, ladies and gentlemen, welcome, Seth Fresh to Monday Night Raw. But anyway, I also found it a little odd that I didn't see any WCW War Games footage, but no big deal. Before we get on to the actual pay-per-view, I just wanted to say this. I'm not a fan of having 2 War Games matches. I get that they want to have things be equal, have one for the women, one for the men. I'm okay with that when it comes to the Rumble or the King of the Ring with the Queen's crown, whatever. I understand that. But I don't want this to become another pay-per-view where they have to suddenly force 2 groupings of people to get together to have a match. I think the men's one made sense because one half was a stable and the other half was, a bunch of baby faces fighting against that stable. Whereas I felt like the ladies one kind of came across more like they just stuck mostly a bunch of random people together to make up for it. So I don't know, just me personally, considering both matches go about 45 to 50 minutes in length, it can drag a little, and I think less is more. What do you think, dude?
Well, for my part, I think that in this case, you've got a men's War Games match that is narratively a perfect fit because these 2 main factions on SmackDown, obviously one of them is the Bloodline, which is, higher in the pecking order than the Brawling Brutes and Drew McIntyre, but putting McIntyre and Brawling Brutes in combination with one another makes them a formidable enough team to take on the Bloodline. So that makes sense narratively. I actually feel like in this case, the women's War Games match made enough sense narratively to sell me on it as well, because although there's not an ongoing feud at this point in time with all 10 of those women, interacting recently, it's kind of a culmination of the last 5 to 7 years of the WWE women's division coming to a head. It had a few women that had been overlooked in the past. It had a couple that have established themselves but haven't quite gotten the full recognition that maybe they deserve. I'm talking about people like Asuka in that sense. So it worked for me. Having said that, I fully agree with you on the idea that you said about now that they worked out they can do the War Games match at Survivor Series, they're going to try and force reasons to have it every time. They just got rid of the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view off of the lineup. That's a good thing. Next thing they need to do is get rid of TLC and Elimination Chamber and Money in the Bank, in my opinion. Some people like the Money in the Bank being a pay-per-view. I think they should just do it at WrestleMania and alternate the genders year after, or not, like on each night, one on each night with the Money in the Bank matches.
Very good call.
So, but where I was leading with this whole thing was next year at Survivor Series, if there isn't an angle going on in either or the men's or the women's division that warrants a War Games match, don't do one. Do a regular 5-on-5 Survivor Series elimination and make it that the last man standing on each team face off for the #1 contendership for the championship or whatever. I don't know. Do something like that. But just go back to the 5-on-5 if there isn't a valid reason for the War Games. Make the War Games an occasional thing, same as the Chamber used to be, same as the Cell used to be, etc., etc. All right. We've waffled on enough. We've set the stage for what really was quite a big show. And yes, everyone out there, you can get snippy with me, but this was better than Full Gear by a wide gap. So
any chance you can to
no, I'm serious.
It's funny, bro. It's okay. Okay, I'm gonna go through my notes for the women's War Games match first, and then I'll throw to you.
Absolutely.
I'm probably going to omit a bunch of this because I've written a fucking lot, because I had 45 minutes of thoughts to put down. Again, I said it last time. Bianca Belair is an incredible athlete, but I cannot stand the character any longer. I can't stand it, Juicy Boy. I know you're not looking at me, but I'm doing a Bianca.
Why? But why can't you stand it though? That's what I
Because
don't.
it's
I don't.
getting
I don't.
old.
But I just don't get what it is about this particular kid. Like, I'm going to let you finish. I'm not even being critical. It's just, it surprises me that someone with the natural level of charisma and likability and just the radiant beauty of her as a woman, surprises me that that whole package isn't really gripping you. But anyway, go ahead.
Because there's no character for me there, you know. I don't feel a character coming from her. She's just smiling and dancing and happy, and she's about to be in a fucking War Games match, you know. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
She's a big thing for the young girls. That's totally cool, but I just can't stand it. I've always had a problem, I would say, for many years now with the WWE and the way that they book babyface champions. It seems like when there's a babyface heavyweight champion, the luster disappears slowly but surely as the title reign wears on, because I just feel like they don't know how to make these babyface champions the badass still that, you know, that you get behind, like Austin was back in the day, like Rock was back in the day. I just don't feel that with the babyface champions and the way that they're booked these days. It's not on her. You're only as good as the creative given to you. Anyway. So Dakota and Bianca are going to start off. So I think that was a good duo to have. The first 5 minutes was okay, but it did feel like forever. I think, again, I was in this mode where I'm like, God damn it. We're starting off with one of the War Games matches.
Yeah.
Of course, they're going to have to do that because you don't want to do them too close together. You don't want to tire the crowd out too much. But I was like, oh, okay, you know, get myself ready for a very long match. So
I felt the same when I saw that it was going to open. I was like, kind of eye rolling, even though I was understanding. I was like, oh, we're not even going to get something a bit faster paced to kind of like get the motor running. But you know, anyways, I won't cut it anymore. There's just so much to say about this one, guys, and it's just, you know, there's a lot. I've got a lot on my mind about this particular event.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I like the cages that the wrestlers come out of. I mean, maybe the visual of them just standing at ringside is kind of tacky, and maybe they don't want to have, you know, 2 doors on the fucking thing or whatever. But for me, there's something about everyone standing in a cage and then getting the cage opened up for them that I just wasn't big on. Anyway, so another note that I wrote was, I can't be bothered writing notes. So one thing I want to say about Nikki Cross is, and I think she's great, but she comes across like she's trying too hard to seem crazy. I don't know. She climbs on top of the little cage, and it's like, okay. When she got into the ring finally, it just kind of reminded me of John Moxley when he's trying to look like he's really tough, when, you know, I don't think he's, you know, that tough. But anyway, maybe that's just me. Maybe my perception's off. I don't know. But I did kind of snicker at Bianca trying to snap the kendo stick on her knee, and she couldn't do it. So she had to force it to snap. And there were still 5 kendo sticks in the ring anyway. Then I got a little mad because Nikki Cross climbs to the top of the cage, and you can see everyone slowly but surely collect together in a group so she can jump off. And I just thought, man, this company, you should know better. That's some AEW shit right there. You know, come on, please. Like, it was too contrived.
That's the inexperience there, because back in the day, guys that had trained in the territorial system or were trained by people from the territorial system learned how to take dives in the context of, oh, if I'm in a match and someone attempts a dive on me and they're going to hit it, all I can really do is stand there and do my best to catch them. So they learned to take dives by taking dives in the courses of matches. They they weren't taught at wrestling school or by their trainer in whatever situation they may have trained. They weren't taught, okay, like when someone lines up for a dive, you and whoever else is there has to make sure that you're in position and stuff. You know, yes, they are supposed to be in position for the dive if you're taking a dive. And I think you can agree with this. We both dabbled on the independent scene in our local area. People are a lot heavier than they look on TV when they dive on you like that. That still doesn't mean that it doesn't look fake to just be blatantly standing there, you know, like a deer in the headlights waiting to catch him. So
yeah, I was just like,
I think that comes down to
what are the odds that they're all just going to suddenly group together in the middle? Like there was nothing that really led to them having to do that. There's all this space, and somehow, some way, they did that for this one spot. I understand you want Specky's spot. I understand that the fans didn't seem to care and still thought that it was awesome. But for me, I thought that it
was a hard landing, and it was a high impact dive in terms of the impact of it. But the problem was that the seconds preceding that moment, instead of just the close up on Nikki Cross, you could see quite easily that a number of the women were scampering to kind of be in position. It's like, yes, you can have, if you're a wrestler in the ring, you want to have it in the back of your mind or in your peripherals. Yeah, she's about to jump off, but you don't want it. It's just, you've got to try and make it look more organic. Anyways, go ahead.
Okay, look, it's either Mia Yim or it's Mitchin. Make your fucking mind up. Cole is calling her Mia Yim. Corey Graves keeps calling her Mitchin. Pick one. I don't care which one. I'd rather Mia Yim, but pick one. Make your fucking mind up. I thought, as Mia was in the match, I thought, man, this is a little bit boring. I'm not getting what I was hoping for with this matchup. And if anyone out there is thinking, oh, I reckon he's just shitting on this because the women are in the match. I love the NXT Women's War Games that happened earlier this year. So you can cut that out right now. Here comes Big Becky. Becky's going to be the last one. And I wrote, I don't care about Becky's plight. Not sure about the ring announcer going, now let the War Games begin. Again, I felt like this wasn't necessary to be a War Games match. Sky with a moonsault off the top of the cage. And again, Mia and Bianca just stood there for a good 10 seconds. And then there was a "This is awesome" chant. No one seems to care about this stuff anymore. There was a spot where Nikki Cross had handcuffed Alexa's wrist, and Alexa was just yanking on the cuff. And I was just thinking, just hit her. She finally did, but like it took 10 seconds. It's just, I know I'm nitpicking here, but if you're going to do little spots like this, you got to at least make it seem like you're realistically trying to get out of it, not just tugging on the cuffs. I did like the broken ladder in the corner spot. Corey Graves still kept saying Mitchin by this point.
He was really annoying on this pay-per-view, by the way. Like,
I did write that later on, that I thought Corey was annoying me.
Unwelcome presence.
Should have been Wade Barrett, Michael Cole, man. Should have been Wade Barrett. They set the ladies on the table. Becky climbs. She does a cool leg drop, puts them through the table. Thank God it's over. The baby faces go over in this one. Look, I wasn't a fan of this. I think maybe I just had a bad mood come into my soul as this match began because I knew it was going to take forever. But it is what it is. That's how I felt. Juicy Boy, your turn. What did you think?
Yeah, I'm just going to be quick. I actually thought the match was fairly well done. I'm giving it a C+ overall. Standout performers for me was Nikki Cross. I'm glad that they got rid of the superhero thing from her. I got the sense that she was really having a lot of fun and enjoying performing this role, and that came through. I do think that Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch both have star power, even though I'm kind of over Becky Lynch on a personal level. I can't deny that she's definitely has the aura of being one of the top women when you watch her perform. And overall, I thought that the the ladies went out there and they gave it their all. They did their absolute best to kind of make this live up to some of the other great War Games matches that have taken place in NXT and, of course, in the NWA years before. Whether they did that, people can debate that. I think that this, kind of it worked, but I think that it was very clear that a number of the people involved were uncomfortable in this type of match because the philosophy with which they've been trained about the business kind of goes against all the instincts that a good wrestler used to utilize in this type of match, which this type of match used to be a blood, guts, knockdown, drag out affair. And I feel like because of the way a lot of these modern day signees are trained, especially the ones that didn't come from the independent scene, it shines through that they didn't spend time on the independent circuit or on those smaller shows where it feels like a bar fight when they're fighting in the crowd, so they don't know how to kind of apply that on the big stage of creating that feeling of like, this is a fight. And I think that only about half of them were trying to get that across. The other half of them were just trying to remember where they had to be. And I think that came through a little bit, which dragged its rating down a little bit. But C+ is still a pretty good rating. I still enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yeah, I wouldn't have called it a dud or anything. It just didn't work for me, brother. We go backstage, and I did find it humorous the way that how serious the situation was with Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman. Roman's sitting there and he goes, "Wise man." And Paul goes, "Yes, my tribal chief." It's kind of hokey, but it's also fucking awesome how serious that they're taking this partnership that they have. So I really like I guess the little thread that went through the show with this whole situation with Sammy having the conversation with Kevin Owens on Smackdown and lying to Jay.
Again, that's storytelling that we've been missing for about the last 20 years. It's finally come back.
Thank God.
These guys have had a rivalry for years. They're going to be in opposing teams at War Games. How's that going to affect all this other shit that's going on with Sammy and the Bloodline?
That's it. Exactly. That's what gives you investment. We're going to move forward here now, bro. Finn Balor representing the Judgment Day with Ray's son Dominic at ringside, along with Damian Priest, taking on AJ Styles with the OC at ringside. What did you think of this one, man?
All right, dude. Well, look, I mean, AJ hasn't been on fire in the last couple of years of his career, and that's not necessarily that he's been doing badly. It's just that he's definitely kind of taken a bit of a backseat, and I think sort of spent some time resting in the mid card, where perhaps the pressure that he has to put on his body physically performing isn't as high at his age, which he's a little bit. He's not too old to still be a great wrestler, of course, but especially with the way modern fitness and sports science is today. But he's getting up there in years in terms of a wrestler that does the kind of style that he does. And much like Rey Mysterio, he continues to be able to do it at quite a high level with only minor adjustments being made, unlike people like Jeff Hardy or Matt Hardy or even Kenny Omega, who clearly have struggled a little bit once some of the more high impact, high intensity, high stakes parts of their repertoire become more difficult for them to perform. I think that pairing him against Finn Balor, though, where I wanted to get to, has brought him back up to that main event level instantly within one match, because I think the people that knew the history between these two and both of them being former leaders of the Bullet Club in Japan and all that different things, and the Balor Club's association with AJ Styles and, you know, all of that connection and stuff. They're going to enjoy it. The smart marks are. And then the people that don't know are just going to be enjoying a hard-hitting, strong style kind of a match. And you could tell that these were 20-plus year veterans in the business that were in their 40s, because the stuff that they did was athletically incredible. It was definitely a modern style match, but it was a modern style match in the way that you would think of it. We would have thought of it back in 2006. It was a match that was hard hitting. It was innovative. There were very interesting counters and the exchange of each other's signature moves back and forth, the physicality of the strikes, and the just the way that they slowly kind of went about building it up. And I liked that they threw a little bit of Dominic, you know, in there, and Damian Priest in here and there, and they kind of rotated them in and out of a couple of spots, which kind of added to the frenetic feel of the match. But at its core, it was just two pros, both of whom have spent a lot of time on the Japanese circuit. They've spent a lot of time defining what, you know, that modern American indie style is, that hybrid between the strong style and the kind of the American and British styles all put together. And I really loved it. I know we're going to be throwing us something very special soon. We'll get to it. But yeah, I love this match overall. I'm giving it an A-. I thought that it was a nice return to form for AJ Styles. And I think that Finn Balor is, for the first time in his WWE career, he is starting to be someone that I'm interested in. And I'm starting to feel like he is comfortable in his own skin, doing what they've got him doing now. You can tell Triple H gets him infinitely more than Vince McMahon did.
Yeah, I agree. He's actually interesting for the first time for me as well. I think him as a heel is much more suited. Although I'm not a fan of that stupid mask he wears on the entrance, but that's okay. I did like the fact that Michael Cole talked about the history of the Bullet Club, and you know, it's really weird to hear that kind of thing, mentioning, you know, 6-time IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion or whatever. I thought it was interesting that they brought that up, and they brought up how, you know, AJ became the de facto leader after Balor left the Bullet Club, you know, and then obviously bringing up how, you know, Finn led, I guess, an offshoot of that in WWE, and then AJ also led an offshoot of that in WWE. So it was cool that he brought up that history, because, you know, it adds a little bit more to the match, aside from the ongoing story that we already have. I did laugh a little bit at Finn Balor during this match. When he punches, I don't know if you could hear it, Juicy Boy, but he goes, Yakto! Yakto! I don't know. It just made me laugh. Why do people make noises like that when they punch in wrestling? I was waiting for this to kick into the next gear after Balor's heat. And I'll be honest with you, I haven't entirely been chuffed with AJ Styles this year. I really expected those matches with Edge to be like all-time greats, and I feel like the two matches that I saw, the two singles matches, didn't quite hit the mark as far as I'm concerned. But I felt this match was a total return to form, as you said as well. Dominic gets a lot of hate. As soon as he gets involved, man, he's doing a great job, and it's kind of like a bit of like a Baron Corbin kind of, like, people just don't like him, you know.
But it's like, it's now becoming funny though. It's like the QT. Honestly, I'm really happy for the kid. It seems like he's having a blast. He's finally managed to kind of earn his, you know, his salt, so to speak, in the eyes of the fans, because now they feel invested in what he's doing on TV, other than just being the Eric Watts of the modern day WWE. Even though I think that Dominic is better than 99% of the smart mark fans who probably moonlight as weekend warriors and think that they're better than him. You're not. You're definitely not. He's very smooth for someone of his relative level of inexperience, and you can tell that he's Rey Mysterio's son. Fuck all the haters. All right, let's move on.
So yeah, I'm not done. That it piqued my interest once both teams bailed on the match and brawled through the crowd. I liked that. It was a nice touch, and I just thought it was funny seeing Dominic just he's like a young 20-year-old, like looks like a regular 20-year-old, and he's getting punched straight in the fucking face by Luke Gallows. That's just like this massive fucking dude just belts him one. It's great. So then Balor and AJ hit the next gear after that takes place. It was like a nice stalemate between the two of them. Because they kept on trading these big time moves. It was anyone's to win. It was not a foregone conclusion. And the stalemate got a very nice applause break. Not a fucking moronic fight forever chant. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I was glad that AJ Styles got the win with the forearm. I thought he needed the win as Balor's been going over a little bit lately on.
What you just said there also reminded me of something. Like I thought it was the right decision to have AJ win as well, but I was surprised that they did it with the Styles forearm instead of the calf crusher. I really thought we were going to get a tap out, to kind of protect Balor that little bit more, since they had shown that he had kind of tweaked his knee throughout the match. But they ended up going with the clean pinfall. I think that's props to Balor as well for doing that, because he's kind of on the upswing, in the best position he's been in since he was his failed Universal title run. So for him to take that loss, I don't think it's going to damage his current trajectory, but yeah, I was surprised that they kind of made it such a clean finish. But I am glad that they're being decisive with their finishes.
Yes, very good. So, Juicy Boy, at this time, and everyone out there at this time, we have a little special treat for you here. You see, we've got our friend, the Blastmaster, Adam Blast.
Adam Blast.
Friend. He was there live at Survivor Series, and he filmed some videos for us. So right here, right now, we're going to be throwing it to our good friend Adam Blast on location several hours ago for the WZWA Road Report. Adam, take it away.
This is the Blastmaster Adam Blast here with your Road Report. Hey, for all you WZWA Network fans out there, here's a clue. The W stands for Weasel, both of them. But we're here at TD Garden, as we call it, Boston Garden, there in Boston, Massachusetts. You can tell all by the damn bees up there, wherever they are. Pretend you can see them. That's hard to film right here. Let's go take a look at the ring, shall we? Now your arena report, some pros and cons. Pros: there is no lights shining directly in your eyeballs, blinding you, like most WWE shows. That's good. Cons: because of the cage, the rigging blocks the screen, so you can't see shit from the video screen. But it's alright. It doesn't smell like balls. It's hot, but it doesn't smell like balls. It's much worse than this for wrestling fans. But pack house, good. It's a good time. Alright, here's the weird thing. I don't know if it's just for wrestling events or the garden in general, but normally you go out, you stand in line to get some food or something, and you can watch the match, while you're waiting. It's been that way for concerts and everything else. But here, there's no way to see what's going on out there unless you fire up WWE Network on Peacock through their Wi-Fi, which is decent at least. But it's weird. It's not a big deal, but it's weird, bro. Beautiful area, the way they light up the whole area around here. You got the place lit up for Survivor Series. It's looking nice out here. Got the last match going on now. Looking for my brother. I got Sheamus' theme stuck in my head. Makes me want to play drums. Alright, enough of that shit. The W stands for Weasel. Both of them.
Thank you very much for that exciting road report, Mr. Adam Blast. We appreciate it so very much. Moving on, my friend. What did we have next?
Wow, that was great. Thank you so much, Adam. We have Ronda Rousey defending the WWE Smackdown. Is it the Smackdown Women's Championship?
Who cares?
I don't know. I don't care. They should only have one women's title, by the way. She defends against Shotzi, bro. I'm a big fan of Shotzi, and I thought that this was her big chance to show what she's got. This is a big opportunity for her to work with Ronda here on pay-per-view for the title. And I thought it was great with her entrance, to the ring. The pyro being shot out of the tank is very cool, as opposed to the little one that she used to just drive around, which was also cool. But you know, they've upped the ante and they've made it true to WWE. I find it weird that their own card game is sponsoring the show. Like, how is it brought to us by, you know, WWE, whatever it's called, Supercard or whatever it's called. I can't even remember what it's called. But yeah, I don't know. It's weird that their own product is sponsoring the show.
They're being sponsored by the developer that makes the video game, really.
I think,
like,
right? I wasn't, again, I've mentioned this before, I'm hating the ring announcing without hometowns and weight. Just saying.
Yeah, I need the hometown, and you know, even up until recently when they would do that, that would still be a little bit of legitimacy. Like, from Aberdeen, Washington, Daniel, Brian, like, it matters, you know. From Adelaide, Australia, Rhea Ripley. It also makes it you just in the little thing of saying the hometown and the weight, you get to understand, like, the people that are involved in this zany world are people from all over the world, all different walks of life. You know, like, we'll see, like, in the main event later on, like Ridge Holland, for example. He comes across like the type of guy that you'd find in England having a beer somewhere, you know, that would happily, loudly sit on the stool next to you and have a yarn with you. Everyone from that type of guy to a guy like LA Knight, you can find them all in this business on this show. I second that statement there, bro. They should be mentioning the hometown or home country.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's so much more international now than it was back in the day. You might have had, like, I don't know, 5 people from different countries in the company, but now you got so many people from so many different countries. But anyway, I thought that the suicide dive from Shotzi, where she ended up nailing Shayna Baszler, was fucking sick. It didn't look fake. It looked good. The timing was perfect. Baszler had pushed Ronda out the way and she just copped it straight away. There was no hesitation. I loved Shotzi's defensive psychology in the match. When she was on the defensive, she found ways to gain the advantage through that psychology. I thought that was interesting. Moments after Shayna had been hit with that suicide dive, she gets on the ring apron and Shotzi kicked her off the ring apron, and I burst into laughter. And it kept on happening. I kept on popping because Baszler kept on getting owned every single time she tried to intervene. And it's like, it's this little Shotzi with the green hair and Shayna Baszler, this badass, and she just can't get one over on her. It was really making me laugh. And then Baszler and Ronda get thrown to the crowd, and then Shotzi does a crossbody and they take out 3 fans, which I laughed at as well. And what are the odds that those 3 fans were in fantastic shape? Clearly, some local independent guys.
I popped for the slowness of it. Like she lands on them, and then the chairs slowly give way, and they're all like,
and the guys are like in pain, like, oh, they're like knocked out from this low fucking boom.
Yeah, that was hell funny as well. Like the bigger guy with the denim shorts and the t-shirt just in the fetal position, like, you know, like
and Shotzi, she'd done everything she could. The character did everything she could to try and get the advantage here on Ronda, but she was caught with that great arm drag at the top rope. I thought Shotzi rose to the challenge here. Rousey ends up getting the win after locking in the arm bar. So, bro, what did you think of this one?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and give this a D+. I think
that's shocking.
Shotzi for me is perhaps the next Lita. I feel like she's a natural baby face.
You say
like
D+?
Yes. I feel like Shotzi herself is phenomenal. I feel like she's a like I said, she's this generation's equivalent of leader. She's someone with a different look. She's someone that looks tough. She's someone that you can read the pain in her body when she's selling and stuff like that. I think that the audience connects with her when they watch her perform. I found myself being drawn to her facial expressions when she goes to do things. You can actually see it on her face, like, oh, I'm about to do something that could be really dangerous. Or, and some wrestlers are great with that kind of thing, and some of them aren't so great. And some people have a natural affinity at doing it, and others not so much. I think Shotzi has a natural gift for it. I even think Ronda Rousey, I really liked her kind of cockiness and the way she sort of carried herself as a heel in this match. But the actual match itself, the spots itself, with the exception of the suicide dive and the crossbody into the crowd, I just feel like there's a sloppiness and and kind of a messiness to the spots that I feel like is still very visible to me. And I feel like whoever is helping Ronda and her opponents lay out their matches there, I don't want to say that they're giving them things that are too complicated for them to pull off, because you can see that they are able to pull them off. But I just feel like the way that they're laying out some of these spots is perhaps a bit too awkward, for Ronda. And I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. I give them credit for what they were trying to do, but it's like the tornado DDT, for example, to the outside is a good example.
Yeah, that was a fuck up. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And there was a couple of other things as well where I was just like, nah, I just think that Ronda's still not quite, it all didn't come together for me. So yeah, I know it's a low rating. I know it's going to seem contradictory because I praised both performers, but sometimes the performers can do a fantastic job and the result can still wind up not ending up the best. It's like Al Pacino or Robert De Niro. Not every film they've ever done has been a masterpiece.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Maybe I've got the rose tinted glasses on because I think Shot's the world of her. But yeah, I did forget about what were they thinking with that tornado DDT spot? That was, even if they didn't mess it up, that would have been fucking dangerous, man.
Yeah.
Anyway, we get the thread of the story still again in this show. Sammy backstage with Roman. And Roman, this is what I find funny. Roman's asking him if he had a conversation with Kevin Owens. And I'm just thinking to myself the whole time, why don't they just watch the footage of the show back? it's on WWE.com. I mean, it's on the YouTube. Just look at the footage. But I thought the storyline, this is a good storyline. But Sammy, the way that he sold the emotion when he was trying to tell him that he's all in for the bloodline, very good stuff. And I also laughed at the fact that it had been quite some time of the show where they've been sitting there backstage, and Paul Heyman was sitting in the same chair holding both titles the whole time, apparently. It's just typical WWE. Anyway, let's move forward, bro. United States Championship on the line here. Seth Rollins defending against Bobby Lashley and Austin Theory in a triple threat match. What did you think, brother?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a C plus. I thought that this was to me, this was the pedal to the metal, like Fast and Furious type of match. The pacing of this triple threat reminded me of like a triple threat that you would have seen in, say, like the early 2000s, where it very much would have been focused on that kind of triangle flow of keeping it moving constantly. And I feel like these three guys went to that formula for this particular triple threat. I think Bobby Lashley actually played his role really well. It was almost like he's just coming off of that huge match against Brock Lesnar, and it's almost like he was still discombobulated from that match somewhat, which excuses why he wasn't able to come out of this match the winner. But they still protected him by not having him be the one to be pinned. But I wanted to point out Bobby Lashley because I feel like there is just not a single thing that the WWE has given this guy that he has not done his absolute best with, and there's not a single match that he's had, no matter the conditions, that I don't think that he's put on a good performance. So I wanted to shout him out there. I think he's still in the prime of his career and he's doing phenomenal. Seth Rollins, I think he is very good at evolving with the times. I think he's a very good ring general. I think that he also is the common denominator in many good triple threat matches. I'm reminded of the triple threat match between him, John Cena, and Brock Lesnar at a Royal Rumble one year, which was a very good triple threat match, and this gave me shades of that. Austin Theory, I thought, finally, now that he's lost that fucking Money in the Bank briefcase, finally he can get back on track. It was almost starting to feel to me like that was starting to become a weight around his neck with the way that they were using him. But they've kind of righted that ship with the having him win this match and the manner in which he won it. I really like the idea that they planted that seed throughout, that Austin Theory, he knew that he was going to need to pick the bones and scavenge this match rather than trying to be the predator. He was going to have to be the hyena, so to speak, and come in and pick the bones once the dust settled between Lashley and Seth Rollins. I think that was smart, both in terms of reestablishing Austin Theory and keeping the other two performers looking strong.
Lovely jubbly. As this match was about to get, because I always, when the US title is being featured, that immediately makes me think, well, where's the Intercontinental title on the show? And again, I want to say this, they have a 1 hour pre-show and they just have that fucking panel. We went to nauseum about it last time, Jooseyboy, but they had that fucking panel that talk about the storylines and everything for a whole hour when you could maybe have Gunther defend the IC title on that show, at least, get him out there in front of that big crowd and, get a little bit of a payday or whatever.
Have Gunther go out there and fucking wrestle a match with Drew Gulak for 15 minutes,
Yeah. Well, just we need to get the IC title out there. We had that great match with Sheamus and Gunther a few months ago that got, I'd have to give that 5 stars. You had that great match, man. I would have thought that they would have kept building on that momentum with him and keep him having these, wild and physical title defenses. But anyway, let's get back to this match. Actually, no, let's not, because I have another note. I'm just so glad that this is no longer some stupid shit show about Raw versus SmackDown, where it's brand versus brand, even though a few months prior they did a draft. So this doesn't mean anything anyway.
Yeah. Even before the draft was meaningless, the whole brand versus brand thing. I remember there was a period of time where they stopped doing the brand warfare thing at Survivor Series, and they did that event called Bragging Rights for a couple of years, and it was just
shit.
It was again doubling down on something that was already long in the tooth by that point.
Yeah.
It always seemed like in the decade since the idea to split the brands into 2 separate products competing internally, it always seemed like in the 2 decades since they first went with that idea, the WWE was trying to manufacture this non-existent state of war between these 2 programs. But the thing was, unlike when they very first did it and there actually was competition, over time they basically just started outright saying, look, we don't care about SmackDown as much as Raw. We care about Raw the most. Our top guy is always going to be on Raw, and the top guy of the previous generation will maybe run SmackDown. And we're going to pretend that there's this massive rivalry between them, even though the rosters on both shows no longer feature compelling people. Like Raw, you used to have Triple H and Randy Orton, and like, you know, you had Shawn Michaels and Christian and Jericho and Shelton Benjamin. And then over on SmackDown, you'd have JBL and Eddie Guerrero and Batista and Rey Mysterio and Eminem. So each brand, and that's not even the glory days of the Black brand split. And each thing felt distinctly different. And, you know, to bring it back to this particular pay-per-view, this Survivor Series actually felt like it had stakes because they focused on issues that were going on between the performers rather than trying to cram this fucking brand supremacy bullshit into a, you know,
and whoever cared about it? I mean,
nobody.
No
Like
one.
when I was a kid and I sort of bought more into the kayfabe, it was a bigger deal to me. Like I'd be like excited about like, oh, who's going over to which brand and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Anyway, so it's great that we no longer have to deal with that crap because I think it was one of our first reviews I think we ever did for the WZWA Network was Survivor Series like a couple years ago, and we shat on that show. So it's good to see a few things have changed since then. So anyway, let's get on with me talking about this triple threat match for the US title. Yes, it was, you know, pretty good at the beginning. Although I'm sick of the fans sucking the whole of somebody when somebody does a dive, and Seth barely grazed both of them, but that's okay.
I hate it. He like pushed him with his hands. Like it was very annoying.
Yeah. And so, you know, it was a good match. And again, Austin Theory, I just really want him to cut out that fucking roly-poly he does. I don't know what the fucking point is. I don't think it adds to any momentum whatsoever. I'm not a fan of Seth using the pedigree if it's just going to be for a false finish. You know, I was
on a guy like Bobby though. Don't you think that works though? Like I'm cutting in here, but
fair enough. But I just think, you know, again, like we have all these moves that were such a big deal, and now they just use like you know, like Becky uses the manhandle slam, and I've seen people kick out of that. You know, it was just a rock bottom, just a poorly executed rock bottom. Anyway, I'm just confused also about another thing. What happened with this storyline with The Miz and Dexter Lumis? Have they had a match yet? Because I went on cagematch.net earlier and I noticed that Dexter still hasn't had a match since returning to WWE. So I'm just wondering where that story's gone and if they ended up having that conclusion of their story. Maybe I'll do some research after this and find out. But anyway, Theory again with his moveset revolved around a little roly-poly. But then we kicked into some high gear here, bro. Rollins hit that frog splash after Theory had Lashley in the pin from that hurt lock. I thought that was the finish. They got me. Great selling by Lashley, selling total exhaustion. The second half of the match made me think this match was the match of the show so far. And what a finish, man. When Rollins had him up for that Falcon Arrow, he gets speared. Theory picks up the scraps. He gets the win. And here's my favorite part, Juicy Boy. I love this. Oh, the fans didn't like Theory winning because you can see them go, what? Suck shit. You all got swerved and you don't get that Rollins theme song as after he retains the belt. Suck a fat hog. And I just saw them pounding the crowd and I was like, look at their stupid faces. They all thought, oh, Theory's just getting buried now. They all came up with their conclusions. What do you know? The little fucker walked away with a fucking belt here. So stick it up your ass, Marks. Stick it up your ass. They pick and choose who they like, and they pick and choose who they really just don't like for whatever fucking reason. They don't like this guy. He's obviously doing a great job as a heel then, isn't he? I think he's great. Anyway, oh, it felt good seeing them just like the shock and awe on their faces that he won. Anyway, here we go. Another War Games match, but at least it's with a story I care about with the Bloodline brother. It's the Bloodline. Solo Sikoa, the Usos, Sammy, Roman taking on Drew McIntyre, Kevin Owens, the Brawling Brutes, Sheamus, Ridge, and of course, Butch. Bro, would you like to go first? What did you think of this one?
Yeah, well, this match is getting an A+ for me. I would pretty much give this a 10 out of 10 rating for my personal taste because It had everything that I want to see out of a match. It had storytelling. It had physicality. It had high stakes. It had several spots and moves done within it that I had not seen before or can't remember seeing before. I loved the fact that this entire main event was a story with a beginning, middle, and an end. It's almost like you weren't thinking or worrying so much about the moves because you were just glued to this drama playing out in front of you. Like by the time it got to the point of Owens nailing that pop-up powerbomb and then into the stunner and then Sami Zayn holding the ref's arm up, by that point, I was like, man, what an incredible match. I think Solo Sikoa it belongs right there with the rest of the bloodline.
Yeah.
It instantly fits in. He belongs there. One thing that I did like from Corey Graves, even though he pissed me off a lot throughout this event, was that he mentioned that Solo Sikoa is like a certain Samoan bulldozer if you turned the throttle all the way up. And I absolutely love that analogy. He is like a hybrid between the Umaga Yokozuna type of Samoan and the Uso Roman Reigns, Jacob Fatu style of Samoan wrestling. And he's kind of, it's like a leaner, sleeker Samoa Joe cross-pollinated with like an Umaga. And it really works. And I think that he really showed something as kind of the rookie in this match. I loved the entire concept of Roman Reigns just the whole time he was looming over this match like a specter. That's what's good about actually having the other competitors there waiting, because every time it would cut back to him, you'd see. And just the storytelling between Zayn and the Usos in this would have been a tremendously complex sequence of events to remember in the heat of battle like this, because this was a physical match too. And I couldn't be more happy with it. I think that, this match is special enough that they now have something here. They have another thing that they can pull out of their bag of tricks. You now know Survivor Series, you can either do a 5-on-5 or you can do a War Games. I personally would like to see them avoid using War Games at all costs unless it's absolutely necessary. Especially after this one, which I think is probably the best War Games match that has happened since the NWA Jim Crockett era. I know I'm going to cop a lot of heat from NXT lovers, and because a lot of those matches, they definitely were really good matches. But to me, this was at a War Games match with actual stars in it, and even the guys that weren't stars, the perfect type of utility workers that you can throw into a situation like that, and they'll be where they need to be, and they'll be in the right spots, and they'll be there to take the bumps and to fill out the match. And in terms of that, I think that everyone in this match, some people in this match had the performance of a lifetime. Like, I think this was the best performance I've ever seen from Solo Sikoa. I think this is probably one of the best performances I've ever seen from Jimmy Uso, and I've seen a lot from him. And I also think that this was the breakout performance for Ridge Holland. And then I think everyone else in this match already just lived up to their parts tremendously. I don't have a lot to say about the specific spots. I'm sure you'll cover some of that.
Yeah, I always end up doing that, don't I? But you're right there. I thought Ridge Holland really did stand out, and so did Solo. You mentioned Jacob Fatu earlier, bro. Imagine he came in and joined the Bloodline as well. Imagine
that would be awesome.
Everyone would be fucked at that point.
Yeah, Jacob Fatu for Rumble 2023.
That would be awesome, man. Okay, yeah. You said another thing about the best War Games match since so-and-so. I felt like probably the best War Games since maybe 1996 when the NWO had that big thing with the fake Sting. But you know, work-wise, this was probably better, but I think I preferred that story, but because you know it was what it was. But this story in this match was perfect. Butch starts, and I must say he must be so stoked now with his position in the company when everyone bitched about him going to the main roster and having his name changed. He's main eventing a pay-per-view now, bitch. So fuck you all. I'm not trying to be a dick, but I just think War Games is built for the men based on the fact that they're bigger and they're more athletic in that sense. It just seems like, I don't know, it just didn't work for the ladies tonight. And although it's strange because I thought that the NXT ladies did great with it earlier in the year, but I just think it would be pretty cool if like they did a War Games, but then the other, you know, even maybe next year they have just the women do the War Games, but the other one should be just the traditional Survivor Series elimination match. Do one of each. That might be cool. But anyway, I like that Cole mentioned the Dangerous Alliance versus Sting's Squadron because obviously Paul Heyman was, you know, the manager of a team in a previous War Game, so that gives them an advantage. I liked Pete doing some Butch, doing some very small things that felt big, the joint manipulation on the cage and all that. Yeah. Doing the small things, don't need to fucking blow your load and do all this crazy shit in order to get the match over and get reactions from the audience. Here comes Big Baszler and Ridge Holland. Must be stoked to be in a main event. Jay Uso was just getting picked apart by the two of them. Great spot, man. Great spot when the time ran out and it was Jimmy's turn. Roman grabbed him, stopped him, and he sent Sammy. Oh my God, man. That's the story I'm looking for.
That is what we say, AEW, Vince McMahon, Dixie Carter. That's what wrestling fans are talking about when they say story. You know, the fact that there's this big War Games match going on should not change the idea that there's this ongoing infighting between Sami Zayn and Jimmy Uso. In fact, a big match like this is an opportunity to build upon, blow off, or continue that ongoing thread in the storyline in some way. That's how wrestling booking should be done. That's how it used to be done by Vince McMahon when he was in charge, before corporate interests became his number one priority, which I still maintain is the main reason his booking became so dreadful. Like everyone used to always say, Vince is out of touch and stuff. And it is probably accurate to say that an almost 80-year-old probably isn't on the cutting edge of pop culture as far as what's in and what's not. But I don't believe for a second that he genuinely thought the booking that he was doing was good wrestling booking. I believe that Vince McMahon for the last 15 years or so was primarily booking in terms of a mass marketability Disney version of wrestling with a goal towards homogenizing the product to make it broadly appealing to a massive audience, as big as possible. And now I think what Triple H has done and shown through this match was bring it back to more of a traditional pro wrestling vibe.
Very well said, bro. It's so funny. This is what I get everyone for making one little comment about how great the story was in this match. We end up getting a nice little history lesson from Jooseyboy. Very nice.
I'm sorry. It's
it's fine. It was great stuff. The Bloodline, as far as I'm concerned, better than the Shield. Better than the Shield. 100% better than the Shield. I love that Roman got to sit down on a chair the whole time. Every time the camera shot him, he had the great facial expressions. He's so serious. He's mapping out what's going on. Really cool stuff. This is what makes this much more interesting than the first match, because there's a story that's affecting the lay of the land of the match. Story beats just doing cool moves every fucking day of the week. Moves don't mean anything after a while. The substance of story is what gives investment to the viewer. Thank you very much. Out came Drew fucking McIntyre. He's from fucking Scotland. He came out next. Feels a bit strange that Karrion Kross had this feud with Drew, this story, and then he's not on this show in another way. I guess you can't get everyone on the pay-per-view, but you know what? We complain about AEW have 14 matches on pay-per-views, so at least WWE keep it simple. I did laugh at Drew after he came in like a house of fire, calling out, "I'm feeling pretty oozy right now." Very good.
Yeah.
Made me laugh. He hit the future shock, which I believe is better than the paradigm shift.
It held popped me like how fast he did it as well.
If
you notice that he did that very quick thing where you grab the arm and twist around and then boom.
Man, he nailed it. And yeah, great stuff here. Jimmy comes out next. I love the bickering between Jay and Sammy. Owens comes in, I think. I don't know. I'm getting lost here. No, he does. He's throwing chairs in the ring. And I'm like, I just can't stand chairs now, man. The shots to the gut, then the back, shots to the gut, then the back, every fucking time. Boop, 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 boop. Enough.
It doesn't work. That's why I liked that Owens was actually throwing the chairs at the guys.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
That actually looked like it was menacing.
Yeah, so they're doing a little pokey in the stomach, and then anyway, so another dynamic enters this match now with Sammy and Kevin Owens. Very interesting. So now we have two stories going on at once. We have the Sammy thing with Jay. We've also got the Sammy thing here with Owens. Very good. Just hope it doesn't lead to more Zayn Owens matches, because we've seen that enough. I'm sure it will, though. Jimmy goes through a table. Here comes Sikoa. Let's get the big bastard in there. And another thing I wrote was, it would be good if they could bleed just in this one match a year. Just this one match. I understand.
I didn't even notice that there was no blood,
Yeah, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. I just thought, great white noise of the second rope. And then here comes the big man. Reigns is out last. He walks down. And as I see him walking down, I think to myself, this man is a star, bro. I also think the female ring announcer is annoying. I don't know who she is, if she's new.
I like her. I think she's beautiful, beautiful woman.
Yeah, well, good for you.
And I also am very attracted to the young African American female referee. She's
a babe. She's a babe.
She looks very nice. Like, I feel like she'd be nice.
She liked to go on a little ice cream date or something. Walk along the jetty together.
Ridiculous. Like, we're two men recording a podcast. This stranger that we're never gonna meet.
We're talking about a cute date that we'd have with them. Like,
in some hypothetical, like,
we're supposed to be talking about a War Games match now, and now we're talking about cute dates. Anyway, so now I've lost where I was. Okay. Yes. So I still hate the thing Roman does before the Superman punch.
Yeah.
But that's all right. Great visual with the multi-chest smashes, whatever they call it, the clubs to the chest.
Yeah.
I thought that was good. Sometimes I get annoyed when something's clearly been set up, but the way that they went about it, kind of, Sheamus was setting it up, but then everyone else had the idea, let's get him in there and let's do it all together.
And they spent time awkwardly trying to force.
Instead of just suddenly they're doing it. A great spot again. Story. Jay accidentally super kicks Sammy. Jimmy wants to go see if Sammy's okay. Jay says, fucking forget about it. Ridge goes through the table with a big spear. This is drama, bro. Drama. Solo puts Drew through the table, then turns into a stunner by Owens for a 2 count. And that was broken up, but what another piece of suspense there. 2 big pops, one after another. Boom, boom. And the camera work helped with that because you didn't see Owens coming until just after Sikoa put Drew through the table. And it's also a good thing for Sikoa because it really does make him look like the enforcer of the bloodline because he took out Drew fucking McIntyre. Sammy, this was the spot of the match, Juicy Boy. Owens hits the stunner. Sammy stops the referee counting 3. Oh no, it was a pop-up powerbomb, wasn't it? Whatever it was.
No, so what he did was he threw Reigns off against the ropes. He hits the pop-up powerbomb. He stands back up after the pop-up and like nails a stunner.
Right. Okay. Thank you for confirming there. So that was great. He's gone for the pinfall. The referee, you see Sammy just pop through the ropes and just hook the arm of the referee. What a spot.
And then Owens is like looking at him like, dude, are
Yeah.
you serious? All the years we've been through, all the wars we've fought beside each other. How could you betray me, Gyro? After all those years I fought beside you. Like, no, but
Right,
it was great storytelling because it's this sense that even if they're rivals as well as friends, it's still just like there's a certain honor amongst thieves that Owens the character, I think felt was betrayed with that move. So what you can really tell that Triple H and Shawn Michaels are heavily involved in like WWE creative. Like you honestly can.
So there's a great stare down between the two of them. You're wondering what's going to happen. I love the low blow, and then I love how Sammy felt broken up about it. But then he does the big haluva kick and throws him down, and it was a great call on the. I think Michael Cole said it, but if Corey Graves said it, okay, that's one thing he did good. But he extends the olive branch to Jey Uso to hit the splash, and he gets the pin on Owens.
Yeah.
Great ending, great storytelling.
Yeah.
There's an embrace of Sammy and Roman, and then there's finally the embrace of Jey and Sammy. They hug. Sammy Uso is in, bro. Great fucking stuff.
I think there's a couple other things in summing up with this main event here. The whole event, actually, I think it needs to be said, great move having a cameraman actually be in between those two rings on the apron, filming that view inside the ring, a la WCW. They need to keep doing that, bro. I think the camera guy on the apron in combination with their traditional hard cam and outside floor operator worked really well. I think that would continue to serve them well if they did that, because I really felt like the physicality of the WWE style was more readily apparent getting inside that ring and being able to hear things a bit more crisply.
Yeah. So what are your final thoughts? What is your rating, bro?
Well, final thought on the main event. I think kudos to the agents for making sure every single person in the match got over. Because there's even questions about where's Jimmy Uso fit in now if Jey and Sammy are going to get along? Where does that leave him now?
Yeah.
Etc. Final thoughts on the show. I'm giving it an 8.5 out of 10. I think it was a tremendous event. I don't care if people watching think that I'm biased against AEW. I feel as though I've given my fair share of high ratings to that company, and I feel as though I've given my fair share of low ratings to WWE events. And I genuinely feel like this show was a tremendous one. I think WWE is doing really well right now. And I say that as someone that doesn't really watch the TV product week to week. So the fact that I'm able to tune in on these pay-per-views and know what's going on is why I'm so confident that the storytelling is better at the moment in the WWE product. And this show as a whole, what a show. Like, I enjoyed this. I didn't find that this was a chore to watch.
Very good, bro. Yeah, I might give it like a 7.5 out of 10. Very close to being an 8. If it just a few things, I didn't like the first War Games match. But yeah, I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10. Again, I still feel like since Triple H has taken over, the pay-per-views that I've seen, I've really enjoyed them. And I enjoyed a couple here and there before that, but for the most part, I did feel like watching them were a chore. Now I feel like every single match that are on these pay-per-views, the build-up is good. There's good story going to each match. It makes me care. They show a highlight package before the match, so I'm up to speed on what the fuck's going on. That's all I really need. I've heard that the weekly TV's still not quite there yet. I've still seen some people that I've been friends with for a while still kind of shit on the product on TV. But the pay-per-views, as far as I'm concerned, are firing on all cylinders. So, Juicy Boy, thank you so much for your time here tonight, bro.
Yeah, you are very welcome, and I think you'll join me in thanking Adam Blast for his road report of his live road report from Boston, Mass, baby, of Survivor Series 2022. And it's a pleasure as always to do these reviews, and I look forward to the next one. Let us know in the comments below what you all thought of Survivor Series 2022, and fucking that is, oh, I'm sorry, yeah, can't forget, make sure you check out our merchandise store, Thunder Mifflin, over at ProWrestlingTees.com. We've got some cool shit down there. There you see one of the designs, and there you can see my very handsome face on the far right there, next to that ugly bearded son of a bitch. Social media, we are on everything. We're on your TikTok, we're on the Instagrams, we're on the Facebook, we're on the MySpace, we're on the Habbo Hotel, we're on the RuneScape, we're on the World of Warcraft, we're on the IRC chat within the Rise On network, and yeah, and there we're saying fuck you to the big boss man.
So immature.
Monet.
Yes, you can find us everywhere, everyone. So Juicy Boy, awesome stuff. And you know what? I'm gonna give you the floor. You can tell everyone that you'll see them down the road. Go on, do it.
Okay, cool. I'm Juicy Boy. This is California, and we will see you down.
Network, that's the way we play. Good God Almighty. Network, that's the way we play. Get puppies. Network, that's the way we play. Get.
The following announcement has been paid for by the WZWA Network.